My first destination in this grand adventure was the North Shore, just over the northern edge of Wisconsin into Minnesota, bordering Lake Superior. But we'll get to that. The journey started, as these kinds often do, with plenty of driving. Through the thick, humid forests and over the rolling rural farmlands that play out lush patterns across the surface of Wisconsin, until eventually morphing into the elegantly tall, dense treetops of a Minnesotan landscape. I arrived along the North Shore, unfortunately, on one of the last days of Memorial Weekend. It was a mix of both not planning ahead for the vacationers, as well as the dreary, rainy conditions of my arrival, that I spent an unplanned night sleeping in my car. The next morning, however, while still cloudy with an imminent chance of rain, I got what view I could from the sky of a genuine Lake Superior sunrise. The fog was rolling in thick, and seeing that your average tourist wouldn't dare be caught in such conditions, I made an effort to visit one of the best locations that I remembered coming here in my youth. That evening, I was able to find a suitable spot to camp. While I knew I'd be spending some nights in the car on this journey, I wanted to make an effort to spend what time I could in the forests of Lake Superior, a place I had connected with so much as a child. It was funny, sitting there alone in my campsite and remembering how I felt on those trips as a kid. It seemed totally different now, alone, like I was breaking some rule just because I didn't have any anymore. No rules from parents or society. Not out here. But life is what you make it, and I pondered that as I went to sleep amongst the stars. The weather cleared up that night, it seemed, and as I woke the next morning, with the sun shining, I headed down to the shore to climb the rocks that make up the side of Superior's beaches. With the sky clear, I got my first unhindered look at the lake. State Park, the home of Temperance River, that over the years has cut deep into the rocky cliff faces of the shoreline. This, like the last location I featured, houses powerful waterfalls, but unlike it, the river runs narrow instead of wide, the waterfalls carving deep bores into the malleable stone that gets deeper and wider each year. It's a 39-mile stretch of water that is fed by several streams and rivers running off from Canada and eventually draining into Superior. Come on, the state park also connects to the Superior hiking trail, perfect for backcountry camping and hiking that totals 310 miles along the shoreline. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to stay long, as I had a country to drive across and a deadline to meet in the San Juan Islands. Driving through the heart of Minnesota and into North Dakota must have taken about 5 hours. covering roughly 250 miles that day, and after considerable rain along the way and a brief stop in Fargo to be welcomed by a rainbow after the day's arduous journey, I pressed on. The pine forests had given way slowly to softer, rolling hills, and as I moved into the Dakotas, the textured landscape fell away entirely to flat farmlands dotted with nothing but the occasional tree or pond.
Man's never alone if he can offer help. Always thinking of everyone else before himself. Worry's a bully that just won't let me be. Trying to keep me busy, tussling and struggling. No home since the fire, me and the ass can't settle.
The most impressive part of the state, I think, were the richly colored canyons I encountered as the highway brought me through Theodore Roosevelt State Park.
Let's see both the pain, and there's no one for to blame. I refuse to accept that my work is all in vain.
The Badlands made the landscape much more interesting. While you can still see out for miles, the wildlife that makes its home among these painted canyons was fascinating to watch.
And struggling, still always remembering when the going gets tough, that the labor of our love will reward.
It wasn't too long after that when I found myself in Montana. If I thought North Dakota was flat and bare, I was poorly mistaken. It had been miles since I'd seen an incorporated town, and running low on gas, I had to stop at this tiny self-start gas pump that was arguably not part of any town at all. There were hardly any buildings, and I hadn't seen another person or car the entire stop. Montana seemed to go on for hours, and as it seemed a storm was on the horizon, I stopped to stretch my legs in this foreign lunar landscape. It was strange, roaming the country like this. With all the transportation we have available in this day and age, you'd think that culture would be able to spread quickly, like in any major city. Yet, there were plenty, I'm sure, in every town I visited that had spent their whole life never leaving home. Although I was just passing through many of these places, it was fascinating to get a glimpse into the rural communities, away from the one that I came from, and how much of these cultures behaved in their own niche way. I was used to sleeping in my car by this point, and as it was the cheapest form of travel, I didn't mind. But I was disappointed by the constant rain that seemed to follow me the entire way. I had visions of starry time lapses over the plains of Montana that were squashed by the ominous clouds, and yet, each day morning came, and what came with it was another few hundred miles and a hope that I'd make it to the coast. These plains seemed never-ending, yet, just when I thought I'd go crazy, I saw a subtle at first, but ever-growing view of the Rocky Mountains, the last barrier between me and my destination. And up the mountains I went. After so many days of driving, the views here were stunning, and it felt an amazing accomplishment to have made it this far on my own. With the mountains came clear skies, and with that, as well, another rainbow to welcome me to this amazing place. I chose a campsite here as well, as there wasn't anywhere in the mountains that I could easily park and spend the night. It was wonderful, too, just to be able to look in any direction and see the earth reaching above me. Certainly nothing like this existed in Wisconsin. The next day, I made sure to do my fair share of exploring. It was bear country, so I wanted to be a little careful, but I probably hiked about 7 miles that day.
Like a snowflake, distinct among snowflakes, unique in each way you can see. And now after some thinking, I'd say I'd rather be a functioning cog in some great machinery, serving something beyond me. But I don't know what that will be. I'll get back to you someday soon. You will see. What's my name?
When I wasn't hiking, I was taking pictures or videos of the pristine waterfalls, the glorious mountains, and the proud forests that were still recovering from the wildfires that had ravaged the area the previous year.
And be grateful and say, sure, take all that you see. To the men who move only in dimly lit halls and determine my future for me. And I don't know who to believe. I'll get back to you someday soon. You will see. If I know only one thing, it's that everything that I see of the world outside is so inconceivable. Often I barely can speak. Yeah, I'm tongue-tied and dizzy, and I can't keep it to myself. What good is it to sing helplessness blues? Why should I wait for anyone else? And I know you will keep me on the shelf. I'll come back to you someday soon.
I took a break from hiking at the edge of a lake, wading ankle deep into the brisk water and enjoying the wonderful, albeit windy weather.
If I had an orchard, I'd work till I'm wrong.
That night, I had a quiet dinner and slept in peace as the sun dipped below the mountains at the end of another day.
I'd work till I'm sore.
After the Rockies, I drove over the desert-like plains of eastern Washington and got what wonderful views I could from the highway of the beautiful foggy peaks of the southern edge of the Cascade Mountains. Finally, 8 days later, and about 2,100 miles farther west than I started, I reached the Pacific Ocean.